What happens when a CEO rides in the back of one of his company's delivery vans and ends up watching a driver stop everything for a stranger? Tanner Jennings sat in the back of the van, dressed in a faded gray hoodie, worn jeans, and a trucker cap pulled low over his face. He looked more like someone picking up scrap metal than the man who bought the 6-location furniture and appliance delivery chain 8 years ago. He hadn't stepped foot inside any of the stores in over 2 years. Too much time behind a desk, too many filtered reports from district managers. Numbers were solid, but something didn't sit right. Customer reviews were slipping. Employee turnover had picked up. And last week, a letter arrived at corporate from a woman in South Carolina. She said a delivery guy at Store 4 had been rude to her elderly father and left a dent in a brand new fridge without telling him. Tanner didn't trust second-hand stories anymore. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and used a prosthetic nose from a movie friend he'd known back in college. Even his voice was different, lower, slower. He called himself Ray, a new trainee sent from a temp agency. No one had ever met him in person at this location. The chain had grown fast, and he'd always dealt with upper management. He chose Store 4 first. It was a warm Monday morning when he showed up behind the building. The manager, a guy in his 30s named Derek, barely looked up when Tanner walked in. "You the temp guy?" Derek asked, flipping through a clipboard. "Yeah, Ray," Tanner said, keeping his voice steady. Derek waved him toward the back. "Go find Carter. He'll take you on the delivery run. Don't slow him down." Carter was already loading up the van. A lean guy in his mid-20s, dark skin, short buzzed hair, and sharp eyes. He barely spoke until they pulled out of the lot. "You ever done this before?" Carter asked, glancing at him. "Not really," Tanner replied. Carter gave a short nod. "No worries. Just don't break anything." They had 6 deliveries that day. 2 fridges, a washer-dryer set, and 3 couches. The first 2 went smooth. Carter moved fast but careful, always checking doorways and corners. He joked with customers and smiled at their kids. At stop number 3, Tanner noticed how Carter lifted the heavy fridge mostly on his own. Carter never complained. "Why don't you ask for help?" Tanner asked once they got back in the van. Carter shrugged. "We're short 2 guys. One quit last week. Nobody's covering." "Why'd he quit?" "Derek's a jerk," Carter said flatly. "Said if we can't do the job with 4 people, he'll find someone who will." Tanner sat with that for a few minutes. He remembered approving a hiring budget for 8 delivery staff per store. They were working with half that. Stop number 5 was the turning point. They just finished dropping off a couch at a 3rd-floor apartment. Tanner's shirt was soaked through. As they drove toward the last stop, Carter suddenly tapped the brakes. "What's wrong?" Tanner asked. Carter pointed across the street. A woman in a faded blue hoodie was sitting on the curb crying. A little boy, maybe 5 or 6, stood next to her holding a plastic bag. "I know we're running late," Carter muttered, pulling over anyway. He got out and jogged across the street. Tanner followed, staying quiet. "Ma'am, you okay?" Carter asked gently. The woman looked up, startled. "My car broke down. I was trying to get to the bus stop. My son's got a doctor's appointment uptown. I don't have money for a tow right now." Carter crouched down beside the boy. "Hey, buddy. What's your name?" "Zayden," the boy whispered. Carter stood back up, looked at the van, then at her. "All right, come on. We'll give you a ride." "What about your job?" she asked, wiping her face. "I'll figure it out," he said. Tanner watched in silence as Carter opened the back door of the van, cleared a space, and helped them in. They drove 20 minutes across town. Carter kept cracking jokes to make Zayden laugh. When they dropped them off, the woman turned to him and said, "You didn't have to do this." "I know," he said. "But someone should." Back in the van, Tanner sat in silence. He stared out the window, chest tight. "You know Derek's gonna flip," Carter said. "Probably," Tanner replied. Carter gave him a look. "You don't seem like most temps." "Maybe I'm not," Tanner muttered. They dropped off the last couch late. Derek was waiting by the dock. The moment Carter stepped out, Derek started shouting. "You're over 40 minutes late." "That's the 2nd time this week." "I've had it." Tanner stepped forward. "Hey, I was there. It wasn't his fault." Derek glared at him. "You don't get a say. You've been here one day." "Yeah," Tanner said. He reached up, pulled off his hat, and let the prosthetic nose drop into his hand. About that. Derek froze. Carter's mouth parted. Wait. What? My name's Tanner Jennings, he said. I own this company. Derek's face drained of color. His mouth opened, then closed again, like his brain couldn't quite process what was happening. Tanner took a step toward him, his voice steady but low enough to make the handful of warehouse staff nearby lean in without realizing it. I've seen and heard enough for one day, Tanner said, eyes locked on Derek. We'll talk inside. Now. Carter didn't move. His eyes flicked between the two men, unsure whether to follow or disappear. You too, Carter, Tanner added without looking back. They cut through the back hallway of the warehouse. The small manager's office was barely bigger than a closet, with a desk wedged against one wall and a filing cabinet that looked older than the building. Tanner didn't sit. Derek did, awkwardly, as if sitting would somehow shield him from what was coming. Tanner leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. Start talking. Derek blinked. I thought you were someone else. You don't say. Tanner's voice was calm, but there was no warmth behind it. Why are you operating at half-staff? We've had people quit, Derek muttered. It's been hard finding replacements. Why haven't you requested more hires? We approved a staffing budget months ago. I figured we could manage. We've been hitting our numbers. On paper, maybe. Tanner turned to Carter. How many deliveries do you run in a week? Usually around 35, Carter said. Sometimes more if we're short. And how many people are on your team right now? 4, including me. Tanner turned back to Derek. That math doesn't work. So you've been pushing everyone past capacity and not flagging any of it. Derek's fingers fidgeted with a pen on the desk. I just didn't want to look like I couldn't handle it. People quitting under you doesn't exactly scream handled, Tanner said. And what about the customer complaint from last week? Derek's eyes narrowed. You mean the old guy who tried to say we broke his fridge? That was nonsense. He probably dropped something on it himself. You were there? Tanner asked. No. But I trust my team. So you believe the guy who didn't report the damage, but not the 80-year-old customer who wrote a letter by hand? Derek didn't answer. Tanner pushed off the wall. You're done here. Clean out your desk. What? Come on, I watched you berate a worker who just helped a woman and her sick son because he was 20 minutes late. You didn't even ask why. You've been running this place on silence and fear. That's not leadership. That's entitlement. Derek started to stand, then thought better of it. This is gonna screw my career. You did that yourself, Tanner said, already walking out. Carter, come with me. They stepped into the hallway where the other employees had clearly been trying not to look like they were listening. Tanner didn't say anything until they were back in the van. You didn't have to step in earlier, Carter said once the doors were shut. I've had worse days. Tanner looked over at him. That's the problem. You've had worse days and no one in charge did anything about it. Carter shifted in his seat. I didn't think you'd actually fire him. People like that usually don't face consequences. They do when I'm the one watching. Carter exhaled slowly and rubbed the back of his neck. So what happens now? You keep doing your job. I'll handle the rest. They drove in silence for a few blocks. Tanner stared out the window, watching the streets blur by. He wasn't just thinking about Derek. He was thinking about what kind of culture had allowed someone like that to run a crew for this long without anyone raising red flags. At a red light, Carter spoke again. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Why'd you come out here? I mean, nobody does that. Not owners anyway. Tanner didn't answer at first. The light turned green. The van eased forward. I got tired of reading numbers and pretending they told the whole story, he said. Turns out they don't. Carter nodded once, then glanced at him again. You gonna do this at other stores? Yeah. Tanner paused, then added, but this one needed it first. They pulled into the lot behind the store. The other 2 delivery guys were sitting on the curb finishing off lukewarm sandwiches. One of them, a tall guy with a sleeve tattoo and a busted work boot held together by duct tape, stood up when he saw Tanner. You're the owner? He asked. Tanner nodded. The guy looked awkward for a second, then stepped closer. You gonna bring someone else in to run the place? I will. But in the meantime, I want to hear from the people who've been dealing with this firsthand. Starting with you. The man nodded. Name's Travis. I've been here 3 years. Used to like it. Lately, it's been rough. How rough? Travis looked over at Carter, then back at Tanner. Derek didn't care what happened out in the field. We told him we needed more help, better routes, even just working GPS units. He'd nod, then forget it by the next day. One time, our brakes gave out on a truck. We told him. He said, ride the other one, and never had it fixed. We've been switching between 2 working vans for months. Tanner's jaw tightened. That truck still here? In the back lot. Covered in dust. Tanner walked over without waiting. The van was exactly where Travis said it'd be. A faded company decal on the side, a cracked windshield, and a piece of paper duct taped to the steering wheel that read, "Do not use." He opened the driver's door. The brake pedal sank halfway to the floor with no resistance. He turned back to Carter and the others. Nobody drives this again. I'll have it towed by morning. Travis glanced at Carter. You think he's for real? Carter nodded. He is. Tanner turned to the group. I'm not here to pretend everything's fixed now. It's not. But I'll be back tomorrow. I want to ride with each of you. I'll see how you work, what you deal with, and what you need. And I'll make decisions based on that, not a spreadsheet. Travis crossed his arms. And what if we tell you stuff you don't want to hear? Then I'll hear it anyway, Tanner said. Because if I can't face it, I shouldn't be running this company. The group fell quiet. Then one of the other guys, a younger worker with oil stains on his jeans and a tired look in his eyes, asked, You gonna replace Derek with someone from corporate? No. I want someone from here. Someone who knows what this job really is. Carter raised an eyebrow. You serious? I am. But I won't decide that today. Tomorrow, I'll ride with Travis. Then the day after, with you. Tanner turned to the younger guy. What's your name? Luis. You're after that. Luis looked stunned, like he hadn't expected to be part of anything beyond lifting furniture. Tanner walked back toward the building. He paused at the door, then turned. One more thing. If anyone here's been covering for Derek's behavior, lying, intimidating, or letting problems slide, you'd better come clean now. Because if I find out later, it won't be a conversation. Nobody spoke. Good. I'll see you all tomorrow. He stepped inside, already making a list in his head of what needed to happen next: HR reviews, safety inspections, repairs, temporary staffing from nearby stores. It wasn't going to be fast. It wasn't going to be easy. But at least now it was going to be honest. By 7:30 the next morning, Tanner was back at store 4, this time standing outside the warehouse in a plain black polo and steel toe boots. He didn't need the disguise anymore. The staff already knew who he was, and nobody seemed eager to pretend otherwise. Travis showed up 5 minutes later, sipping from a thermos and moving with the stiff gait of someone who'd spent too many days lifting too much weight without enough help. You sure you want to ride with me today? He asked, eyeing Tanner as he adjusted the straps on his back brace. We've got 2 stair jobs. One corner house with a gate that never opens, and a customer who files a complaint every time we're more than 5 minutes late. I'm sure, Tanner said. Let's go. They loaded the truck in silence. Travis moved methodically, checking each strap and corner pad without saying much. The first delivery was a washer-dryer combo scheduled for a 2-story duplex on the east side. The street was narrow and the driveway too steep to back up into, so they had to wheel the units up a sloped sidewalk and maneuver through a side gate barely wide enough for the dolly. As they worked, Tanner noticed Travis quietly repositioning the washer on the lift, shielding it from bumping against the fence. He didn't say anything, didn't point it out, but it was clear he'd done this delivery before and remembered the layout. Do you always get this route? Tanner asked, grabbing the dolly handles. More or less. Derek used to assign routes without looking at the actual stops. Said it was faster to keep us in the same zones. Doesn't matter if the houses are a nightmare. Did anyone push back? Once. Guy named Ramon. He told Derek the delivery order didn't make sense, said we were driving in circles. Next week, he was moved to part-time. Then they stopped calling him in. Tanner exhaled, adjusting his grip. That changes now. It was a quiet promise, but one Travis didn't comment on. They finished the delivery without issue, but on the way down the steps, a neighbor leaned over their fence and called out, "Y'all from that furniture place?" "Yeah," Travis said without stopping. "Tell your boss the last couch they sent had a busted leg. Took 2 weeks before anyone called us back." Tanner turned to face her. "Ma'am, I'm the owner. I'm sorry that happened. Can you tell me your last name?" She hesitated. "Mendoza. I'll make sure someone from customer care follows up today." She looked surprised, then nodded. "All right, thanks." Back in the truck, Travis raised an eyebrow. "You always do that?" "Not before," Tanner said. "Now I do." They made 2 more stops, both uneventful, but both requiring long walks and multiple repositions through tight doorways. By noon, they were at the far end of their coverage zone, a rural house just barely within the store's delivery radius. As they pulled up, Travis sighed. "This is the one I warned you about." The house was behind a rusted gate, chained at the top and bottom. The front porch was cluttered with boxes and broken furniture. A dog barked loudly from somewhere behind the house. Travis honked. Nothing. They waited. 2 minutes. Then 3. Finally, the front door creaked open and a man stepped out mid-60s. Heavy-set, cigarette in one hand. "You're late," he said, voice flat. "We're within the window," Travis replied calmly. Window was 9 to 11. "It's 11:15. Tanner checked his watch. It was 11:12. "We had a tight route," Tanner said. "Appreciate your patience." The man squinted at him. "You knew." "Something like that." The man looked at Travis. "You in charge?" "No," Travis said. "We work together." The man snorted. "Figures. They send the tall one and the one who doesn't talk right." Tanner froze. Travis didn't. "We're here to drop off a recliner," Travis said, voice steady. "If you want it inside, we'll need help with the gate." The man didn't move. "Go around it. There's no space to, then don't bring it in. Leave it on the porch." Travis didn't argue. He just turned back to the truck. Tanner followed, but once they got the recliner down and positioned by the steps, he walked back toward the man. "You've got no business talking to him like that," Tanner said. "If you've got a problem, it comes to me." The man laughed. "Don't get soft. You want a tip or not?" Tanner stepped forward, close enough that the man had to look up slightly. "We're not here for a tip. We're here to do a job. And if I hear you talk to any of my people like that again, you won't be getting deliveries from us. Ever." The man waved him off. "Yeah, okay. I'll remember that next time I order something. Or maybe I won't. There won't be a next time." They walked back to the truck. Travis was already strapping down the dolly. "You didn't have to say anything," he said. "I did," Tanner replied. "Because I heard it." Travis's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak again until they were back on the road. "Stuff like that happens more than you think," he said. "Especially when we're out here. People assume we're desperate, dumb, or both. They think we'll take whatever they throw at us just to keep working. Not anymore. You can't fix every customer." "No," Tanner said. "But I can decide who we serve." The last delivery was a double drop, a love seat, and a dining table to a small house in a quiet cul-de-sac. The customer, a middle-aged woman with a soft voice and a bandage on her wrist, opened the door and immediately apologized for the mess inside. "I fell last week. Haven't been able to clean properly." "No worries," Travis said gently. "Just point us where it needs to go." As they maneuvered the love seat through the narrow hallway, she winced watching them. "I used to do all this myself," she said. "Moved here after my husband died. Figured I didn't need much. But then I slipped on wet tile, and now I can't even lift a box." Tanner knelt to adjust the table legs. "Do you have anyone helping you?" "My daughter lives out west. She checks in, but it's hard." After they finished, Travis stayed an extra few minutes to shift a heavy box from her living room to the back bedroom. She didn't ask, he just did it. When they returned to the truck, Tanner sat in silence for a moment before turning to Travis. "You ever think about leaving?" "Every couple months," Travis said. "But then I remember there's a difference between the job and the people in charge of it. The job's not the problem." Tanner nodded. I want you to consider stepping into a leadership role here. Travis blinked. Me? You know the routes, the customers, the team. You don't talk unless it matters, and when it does, people listen. I've never run anything. You've been running this place more than anyone else has. Travis leaned back in his seat. If I do it, I want to do it right. No corner cutting. No rubber stamping orders. That's the idea. Back at the store, Tanner didn't waste time. He pulled Carter aside and asked him to train a new hire coming in the following week. Luis was already in the back, helping a technician rearrange inventory pallets, something he'd volunteered to do without being asked. Tanner called the regional HR lead and made the interim promotion official. Travis would lead the delivery team starting tomorrow. HR would begin reviewing Derek's past personnel files for any signs of retaliation or negligence. Tanner also requested an anonymous feedback survey sent to every employee in the store. He didn't announce any of this over loudspeakers. No all-hands meeting. No speeches. Just quiet, deliberate change. Later, as he walked across the lot toward his rental car, he caught sight of Carter and Travis near the loading dock. They didn't see him, and he didn't interrupt. Carter was laughing at something, and Travis, for the first time, wasn't just nodding along, he was saying something animated, hands moving as he explained a route adjustment. It wasn't fixed. Not yet. But it was moving in the right direction. Tanner returned to store 4 the next morning before sunrise. The sky was still dark, the air thick with dew. He stood by the back door with a clipboard tucked under one arm, waiting as the first delivery crew arrived in silence. No one asked why he was there. No one needed to. News had already traveled. Luis stepped out of a dusty sedan, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He gave a nod, then walked straight to the warehouse to start prepping the van. No fanfare. Just work. That's what Tanner had come to respect most about this crew. They didn't waste time pretending. They just did the job. Inside, Travis was already scanning the manifest for the day's deliveries. He had a new badge clipped to his chest, temporary lead, printed in block letters. Next to him, Carter was reviewing a route map with a younger trainee, a new hire from Store 6 who'd transferred in to help fill the gap. Tanner motioned Travis over. How's the crew holding up? He asked. They're tired. But they're showing up. That counts for something. Keep an eye on the new guy. He's green but eager. I noticed, Travis said. He asked if we had a stretching protocol before lifting anything. That's not a bad idea, Tanner said, half smiling. Maybe we should. Travis didn't laugh. Not saying it's bad. Just saying it's new. Tanner handed him a small folder. That's the final approval. You're officially lead now. No interim, no transition. Travis stared at the folder but didn't open it. I never asked for this. I know. That's why I trust you with it. Travis finally took the folder and tucked it under his arm. Need anything else from me? He asked. Yeah. I want you to come with me to the customer service desk. Travis raised an eyebrow but followed without a word. Inside the showroom, the lone customer rep behind the desk looked up, startled to see both of them. Her name tag read Rita. She was middle-aged, sharp-featured, with a cautious voice Tanner hadn't heard much from yet. I need a list of every open complaint from the last 90 days, Tanner said. And I want them sorted by response time. Rita blinked. We don't usually organize them that way. You do now. She hesitated, then turned to her terminal and began typing. Travis leaned closer to Tanner. You think this'll help? It'll show me where the silence starts, he said quietly. Rita printed out a stack of papers and handed them over. Tanner flipped through the first few pages, scanning the timestamps. One caught his attention, a complaint from a customer about a missing part on a dresser unanswered for over 3 weeks. Who was assigned to this one? He asked. Rita hesitated. That would have gone to Mark. Where's Mark? Warehouse side. Parts inventory. Tanner turned to Travis. Walk with me. They crossed the warehouse floor, weaving past open pallets and half-assembled furniture. Mark stood near the back, scanning barcodes with a handheld device. He was in his early 40s, heavy-set, with a short-cut beard and a Bluetooth headset resting behind one ear. Mark, Tanner said. Mark looked up, surprised. Didn't expect to see you again today. I need to ask about a complaint you were assigned last month. Dresser missing a leg. Customer never got a call back. Mark shrugged. Must have slipped through. We've had a backlog. Tanner handed him the paper. This was logged 19 business days ago. No follow-up. No ticket closed. Nothing. Mark took the paper, glanced at it, and handed it back. Like I said, backlog. You want me to prioritize that one today. I want to know why it wasn't flagged. Mark's face tightened. Because we've got more important things than chasing down people who can't read assembly instructions. Tanner's expression didn't change. She sent in photos. The part was clearly missing from the box. Mark crossed his arms. You think people don't fake stuff like that? This one leg. She probably lost it. Is that how you usually handle complaints? If they're real, I fix them. And if they're not? Mark didn't answer. Travis took a step forward. We're not in the business of guessing who's lying. Tanner turned back to Mark. You've been here how long? 7 years. Then you should know better. Mark scoffed. I'm not going to get worked up about some woman who's probably sitting on the dresser just fine. Tanner's voice was quiet. You're done here. Mark blinked. Wait, what? You just dismissed a customer without investigating. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. You don't belong on this team. Mark looked like he wanted to argue, then thought better of it. Fine. You'll regret losing someone who actually knew what they were doing. I'd rather lose that than keep someone who doesn't care. Mark walked off without another word. Travis exhaled slowly beside him. That wasn't just backlog, Travis said. He's been brushing stuff off for months. We all knew it. No way to prove it, though. You don't need proof when they admit it out loud. Back in the front office, Tanner found Rita again. Mark's gone. Reassign any open complaints to someone else. Split them if needed. And flag anything over 2 weeks old for priority. Rita nodded without hesitation this time. As Tanner turned to leave, she called out. Sir? He stopped. Thanks. For not just asking questions, but doing something with the answers. He gave a short nod, then kept walking. The rest of the day passed in quiet motion. Deliveries went out. Crews came and went. The new hire worked alongside Carter without slowing him down. Travis called in a favor from a rep at Store 2 to help with parts tracking until they found Mark's replacement. By evening, Tanner gathered the entire crew in the break room. Not just drivers, everyone. Customer reps, warehouse staff, even the technician from maintenance who usually kept to himself. He stood at the front, arms relaxed, no clipboard this time. You've all seen things change this week. Some of it fast. Some of it uncomfortable. That's not going to stop. But I need you to know something: this place doesn't run because of policies or logos. It runs because of you. He let that settle before continuing. I came here because something felt wrong. I found out it was worse than I thought. But I also saw what's still solid. People stepping up. Doing the job right. Even when no one's watching. He looked around the room. There's no more looking the other way. If someone's being mistreated, customer or employee, I want it reported. Directly. No waiting. No chain of silence. Travis is your lead now. I trust him. You should too. Travis didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. Tanner continued. You won't see me every day, but that doesn't mean I've disappeared. I'll be at another store next week, doing the same thing. And when I'm not there, I'll be checking. Quietly. Randomly. Because the only way this company works is if it works the same everywhere. Someone near the back raised a hand. A young warehouse worker with a faded name tag. Eli. What happens when people stop caring again? When the next Derek shows up? Tanner nodded. Then I want you to be the reason they don't last. One person speaking up can stop a lot of damage. But a team that's not afraid to speak? That's permanent. The room fell silent. Then, slowly, people began to nod. Not big gestures, not applause. Just quiet agreement. Tanner stepped out into the evening light. The delivery vans were parked in a neat row, engines cooling, metal frames catching the last bit of sunlight. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't supposed to be. But it was real now, seen, acknowledged, and finally moving forward. He took a deep breath, then turned toward his car. Tomorrow, a new store waited. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like a stranger in his own company.